Fantasy Ballers 2.0. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the Fantasy Flex. Sorry for not bringing it last week. We like to hope that everybody had a happy Thanksgiving last week, and I'm thankful for you guys tuning into the Fantasy Flex for week 4. Hope you guys appreciate and checked out the trophies that I got going down, as I'll throw down a trophy presentation at the end of the show. However, right now, let's get up into it. I'll just go and retrack it back to the matchups for 2 weeks ago, so we can get up into it like this. The New York Knicks 2 weeks ago taking on the Miami Heat. 2028 to 898 went that matchup. Next up, you got the Boston Celtics, who took on the Cleveland Cavaliers. That matchup going to the Cavaliers 14-16 and 13-38. Phoenix Suns taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. That matchup going to the Phoenix Suns 17-47 to 15-11. Fourth matchup of week 3 was between the Jazz and the Hornets. The Hornets take that matchup 1998 to 1678. And in our last matchup of week 3, that went between the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic, two very active owners who are right now currently standing at 3-1. That matchup right there, closest matchup of that week, went in favor of the Hawks, who won that matchup right there by 31 points, 1840 to 1809. Now moving on up to week 4, which would be last week's, folks, as we go into a rewind, the second helping, as we get into this week's extra meat and potatoes, or that'll be a little bit later on when we serve up the pumpkin pie and the trophies. This week's matchups, or last week's matchups, went between the New York Knicks and the Utah Jazz, who are right now tied up for second place in Division 2, both at 2-2. Better matchup this week. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Pattis on a good win there. Had me moving throughout the whole week, edged me out at the end. 21-24 to 1947. Leading scorer for the Knicks, Amari Stoudemire, 263 points. Leading scorer for the Jazz, Darren Williams, with 256 points in week 4's matchup. Now I'd like to thank also for the Miami Heat as we get to the Miami matchup next up. Matt Noon for joining, taking over that team, taking the reins over there, so should be getting some movement there. Mr. Noon's a very active competitor. Got him in my football leagues. Got some mover and shakers, so be on the lookout for some trades that should be coming through down for the Heat. You got a player that he wants, you're going to get the trade ads for. 0-4, however, he took on the Hawks, who were very active too. Mr. Brown edging out this matchup, who's 3-1, 1983 to 1896. The Los Angeles Lakers last week took on the New Orleans Hornets. But before I do that, let me switch on back to the leading scores for the Heat and Hawks matchup. Leading score for the Heat, Manu Ginobili, 282 points. Leading score for the Hawks, Dirk Nowitzki, 308 points in week 4's matchup. Los Angeles Lakers, like I said, taking on the Hornets. That matchup going to the Lakers, 21-37 to 1806. Leading score for the Lakers, Andre Iguodala with 250 points. Leading score for the Hornets, D. Rose, Derrick Rose, the fast man, with 240 points in last week's matchup. And we switch on over now to the west side. Going up against the Phoenix Suns were the Boston Celtics, who lost that matchup 20-96 to 16-64. Leading score for the Phoenix Suns, Blake Griffin, 326 points. Leading score for the Celtics, Kevin Love, with 293 points in last week's matchups and last week's loss. Our last matchup of the week went between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic. That one clearly going to the Magic, 21-46 to 15-91. Leading score for the Cavaliers, LeBron James with 242 points. LeBron James and the Cavaliers, the only place where the man is still in Cleveland. Where else but fantasy? Leading score for the Magic, Dwight Howard with 333 points. So trips for D. Howard or D12 in last week's matchups. And we'll get into a preview before we get into the standings of both the divisions. This week's matchup puts up the 1-3 Los Angeles Lakers up against the 2-2 Knicks. Then you got the 3-1 Magic taking on the 2-2 Celtics. That being followed by the 2-2 Cavaliers taking on the 0-4 Miami Heat. Matt Noon seeking his first win as owner of the Miami Heat for a full week, I guess you can say. Next up, you got the 2-2 Jazz taking on the 3-1 Hawks. Another matchup against two very active owners. So it should be a good one this week, popping off in the scoreboard's head when you're checking on later out the week and you're checking your scores. Check on the scores of everybody else and see what's going on against your division rivals. Last matchup of this week is going to be the 1-3 Hornets looking for a win up against the undefeated Phoenix Suns, who are standing right now at 4-0. And hey, that's going to be a tough win to get for yourself, son. Now we get up into the standings of Fantasy Ballers 2.0. In the East side, you got the Hawks and the Magic both holding on that division with 3-1 records. You got two teams who are one game back with 2-2 records, that being the Cavaliers and the Celtics. And the Miami Heat, who are 0-4, seeking their first win on the year, are 3 games back in Division East. And in the West Division, you got that right now being headed by the undefeated Phoenix Suns, followed up by the Utah Jazz, who are 2-2, and the Knicks, who are also 2-2, 2 games back in the division. Then you got the 1-3 Lakers and the 1-3 Hornets, 3 games back in the division, looking to move up in the standings. And now let's get up into the dessert of the league, the extra helpings. The reason why we didn't have a fantasy flex last week, which would be our trophy section. Trophy presentation now. I'll break it down as far as, you know what I'm saying, a little something why I named the trophy and all that. Just keep in mind that I am a Knicks fan when some of these trophies get thrown out there. And I wasn't a Jordan fan, but, you know what I'm saying, I couldn't have Will be a trophy twice. So the Field Goals Made trophy, or the Jordan trophy, is going out this week to the Utah Jazz. Be on the listen because the Jazz have been making some moves and doing some things. So you'll be hearing their names a lot on this trophy presentation. However, with 275 field goals made last week, that's going to the Jazz. Then you got the Mark Price trophy, or the Price trophy, for the most free throws made throughout last week's matchups. That's going out to Mr. Tony Brown of the Atlanta Hawks with 173 free throws made last week. So it's a good trophy to have, you know what I'm saying? You got shooters that are knocking them down. I got some feedback about the Spreewell trophy, which is the trophy for most three-pointers in all matchups. Hey, I'm a Knicks fan. People's like, yo, why not Reggie? Yo, fuck Reggie. However, the Spreewell trophy, I awarded it to him because he has the record for most three-pointers made in a game without a miss, going 9 for 9 in a game. So for week 4, the Spreewell trophy is going to the New York Knicks, who made 59 three-pointers throughout last week's matchups. The Rodman trophy should be pretty easy. You think of Rodman, you think of rebounds. One of my faves growing up as a kid. With 319 rebounds, claiming the Rodman trophy this week would be the Orlando Magic, Mr. DeMelo. And then our next trophy, which is the Magic Johnson trophy, that's going because Mr. Magic averaged just over 10 assists per game. For week 4 with 181 assists, that's going to the Utah Jazz. Another time you'll be hearing the Jazz's name here. Like I said, 181 assists, taking the Magic Johnson trophy this week. And we move on up to our next trophy, which will be the Stockton trophy. People getting it twisted, yo, why not the assist trophy for Stockton? Yo, Stockton did lead career numbers as far as assists all time. And he got the most steals, you know what I'm saying, all time. However, I'm getting twisted up over here, trying to finish the show and pay attention to time and not get, you know what I'm saying, consumed up in here. With the most steals last week and getting the Stockton trophy, that's also going to the Utah Jazz. That's a funny coincidence. With 54 steals last week. And we move on over to the blocks trophy, which would be none other than the Olajuwon trophy. For the most blocks last week with 39 blocks, that's going to the Lakers. Mr. Woodruff, who's getting that trophy. The Chamberlain trophy for most points scored throughout all the matchups, that's also going to the Utah Jazz. Mr. Pattis, you know what I'm saying, getting a clean sweep on some high-priced trophies here. 755 points his team put up all together. The Malone Stockton trophy is going out for most double-doubles. Those guys both combined lead double-doubles, however way you want to look at it, points and assists or points and rebounds. Last week with 14 double-doubles, that went to Michael of the Phoenix Suns. So shouts there, you know what I'm saying, he's running his team, doing his thing. And we actually got a Robertson trophy, Oscar Robertson trophy to give out this week for last week's triple-double in week 4, going to the Atlanta Hawks, Mr. Brown, for Josh Smith's triple-double last week. The I Killed It trophy this week, the winner by the largest margin in last week's matchups, that's going to the Magic for beating the Cavaliers by 555 points. The I Got My Ass Handed to Me trophy, which is, you know what I'm saying, those two trophies obviously go hand in hand, is going to the Cavaliers, who lost by 555 points to the Magic. And this week's Baller Award, the trophy for the guy who put up the most fantasy points this week, is going out to the Orlando Magic. This week's Ballers trophy is the trophy that I'm going to try and, you know what I'm saying, display up on the league. Got to fix up some codes and all that, but it's up there. Yo, like to thank you guys. Week 3, Fantasy Flex Thanksgiving edition. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry about last week. This is Flex. Flex out. See you guys next week.